We're about to take a journey, 2,600 years into the past, to dig into a prophecy about a long-lost empire. And what's fascinating is how this ancient text is causing some really intense debate in our world right now.
I mean, seriously, think about that. What if these ancient words aren't just dusty relics, but are actually a living blueprint for today? We're going to try and bridge that gap between the past and the present, and see how an oracle from the prophet Jeremiah connects to one of the most talked about nations on the world stage.
And this is where it all gets incredibly current. According to the material we're looking at, this very specific date and event made people all over the world suddenly pull up a passage in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 49. All of a sudden, this obscure prophecy became, well, front-page news for anyone watching the region.
And here it is. This is the verse that's at the heart of everything. It's such a radical, powerful claim. God declaring he's going to set up his own throne, his own rule, in a foreign, pagan land. To really get what this means, we first have to understand who and what Elam actually was.
So, before we can even start to deconstruct the prophecy, we need to meet the people it was all about, the Elamites. I want you to picture the vast landscapes of ancient southwestern Iran, because that was home to one of the world's oldest and most powerful civilizations.
Yeah, Elam wasn't just some minor tribe. No way. This was a superpower in the ancient Near East for more than 2,000 years. Their territory was in modern-day southwestern Iran, and their magnificent capital, Susa, was a constant rival to the Mesopotamian giants, like Babylon and Assyria.
Now, here's what makes them so unique. The Elamites called their own land Haltamti, which actually means land of the gods. And get this, their language was a complete isolate. That means it has no known relationship to the languages of their neighbors or, well, any other language family we know of. It really set them apart.
And this just goes to show you their lasting impact. Even after Elam was conquered and folded into the Persian Empire under Cyrus the Great, its culture was so strong that the Elamite language was made one of the 3 official languages of the empire. Their political power might have ended, but their cultural influence, that was a different story.
Okay, so with that history in mind, now we can turn back to the prophecy itself. Jeremiah's oracle lays out this very specific chain of events, a kind of threefold judgment that was supposed to bring this ancient superpower to its knees.
So the structure here is really key. First, God says he will shatter the bow, which was the core of Elam's military strength. Second, he would scatter the people to the 4 winds, a total global diaspora. And third, he would send the sword, basically meaning they'd be hunted by their enemies until they were pretty much wiped out as a political power.
And history seems to line up with this. The prophecy was given around 597 BC. And soon after, historical records show Elam was defeated by Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon. Later, it was absorbed by the Persians, then conquered by Alexander the Great. And archaeology confirms this widespread scattering. They found evidence of Elamites everywhere, from Egypt all the way to modern-day Afghanistan.
And that brings us to the most startling part of the prophecy, because after predicting this total military and political collapse, the oracle takes a sharp turn into a theological claim that would have been absolutely shocking to anyone listening back then.
The message here is profound. By declaring he will set his throne in Elam, the God of Israel is basically claiming universal authority. His rule isn't just for Jerusalem or the Jewish people. It extends over every nation, every king, every foreign god. This completely challenges the ancient idea of local gods and puts forward this idea of a single, ultimate ruler over all of humanity.
So what you have here is this fundamental clash of power, a clash of thrones. On one side, you've got the temporary, regional rule of Elam's king, which is all based on military strength, on the bow. But what happens when that comes up against a divine throne, one that represents universal and eternal authority? Well, according to the prophecy, when God's throne is set, all other claims to power just become irrelevant.
And this idea isn't just in Jeremiah. This concept of God's universal rule is a theme you see all through the scriptures. Like Psalm 22 says, "Dominion belongs to the Lord, and he rules over the nations." The prophecy against Elam is almost like a dramatic, real-world case study of that very principle.
All right, so the big question. How does any of this ancient history connect to our modern world? Let's bring this whole story full circle and look at how these ancient words are being interpreted today, specifically in the context of modern Iran. This timeline gives us a really great snapshot. You go from the original prophecy
to its historical fulfillment. Then you even see the Elamite identity continuing into the New Testament, where they're listed as being present at Pentecost. And that brings us right up to today, where this prophecy is being looked at through the lens of current events. So one major modern interpretation is geopolitical. In this view, Elam is seen as a stand-in for modern Iran. And the bow, that source of their might, is interpreted as Iran's ballistic missile program and its nuclear infrastructure. So why does this matter? Because for some, this ancient text is being read as a potential roadmap for future military conflict in the Middle East.
But then there's another, equally powerful way to look at it. This one focuses on the prophecy's final verse, which actually promises restoration. In this spiritual view, setting God's throne in Elam isn't a political takeover. It's about God establishing his rule in the hearts of the Iranian people. It suggests that a nation's ultimate destiny isn't defined by its government, but by a spiritual awakening happening among its people.
And the scale of this reported revival is, well, it's staggering. According to mission organizations mentioned in our sources, it's estimated that over 1 million Muslims in Iran have converted to Christianity just since the 1979 revolution. It's often described as one of the fastest-growing Christian movements anywhere in the world.
This movement is happening mostly through a hidden, underground network of secret house churches. We're told it's fueled by this deep disillusionment with the state religion. People gather in homes to worship and study, all while facing the constant threat of persecution. For many who hold this view, this is the ultimate fulfillment of the prophecy, God setting his throne not in a palace, but in these hidden communities of believers all across the nation.
So, we end with this thought. The Oracle of Elam, whether you see it geopolitically or spiritually, it raises a huge question about power. It suggests that maybe the final story of a nation isn't written by its armies or its politicians, but by a sovereign hand that works in ways we might not fully understand. What does that mean for the world today? It's something to think about.